Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a play. If there was ever a drive that should seal the fate of an entire coaching staff, it was that one. That absolute meltdown before halftime in the Washington Commanders' humiliating 44-22 loss to the Dallas Cowboys. It wasn't just another bad defensive series. It was a microcosm of everything wrong with this football team. One drive that summed up weeks of frustration, confusion, and wasted potential. One drive that should finally force the organization to look in the mirror and admit, something has to change, and it has to change now. The Washington Commanders have reached their breaking point. Now, let's get this straight. Injuries are a reality in the NFL. They hit every team, every season. You lose starters, you shuffle depth charts, you improvise. But there's a difference between battling through adversity and letting it define you. The Commanders have been walking that thin line all year. Dietrich Wise is hurt, while Harris is out, and sure, that hurts. But come on, this team's defensive issues go way deeper than a couple of missing players. The same busted coverages, the same slow reactions, the same lack of adjustments. Week after week, it's déjà vu. You watch the tape, and you see the same plays killing them. And the worst part? There's no sign anyone's learning from it. Washington is sitting at 3-4 now, but that record feels like a gift. They've been lucky to scrape together those wins, and anyone who's watched them closely knows this team could just as easily be 1-6. The defense continues to rank near the bottom of the league, giving up explosive plays like they're handing out Halloween candy. Every Sunday, it's another horror show, and there's no accountability, no shakeup, no energy. It's almost like they're waiting for things to magically fix themselves. Spoiler alert, they won't. The nightmare really started before halftime. Jaden Daniels, battling through a hamstring issue and a lineup missing its best receiver, managed to do what leaders do. He gave them hope. He marched the offense down the field, led a clean, composed drive, and scored a touchdown to cut the deficit to one possession. The scoreboard read 20-15. The Commanders were in striking distance. The defense just needed to survive 45 seconds. That's all. 45 seconds of discipline, of focus, of doing your job. And they couldn't even manage that. Dak Prescott didn't need much. He looked up, saw Marshawn Lattimore lined up on George Pickens, and knew exactly where he was going. Boom! 44 yards downfield. Lattimore got burned so badly you'd think he was playing with cement in his cleats. That should have been the wake-up call. That should have been the tighten-up moment. But instead, the Cowboys doubled down. Next play, Javonte Williams broke off a 33-yard run, dragging Quan Martin for a full 10 yards like he was carrying groceries instead of a human being. At that point, the Commanders were cooked. The body language on that defense said it all. Heads down, shoulders slumped, no communication, no fire. Prescott took advantage, hitting Jake Ferguson wide open in the end zone to make it 27-15 before halftime. 10 seconds left, and the Commanders' spirit was gone. That drive, that miserable 35-second embarrassment, should be the end of the line for this coaching setup. When an offense that's scraping by without its top weapons manages to claw its way back into the game, only to watch the defense implode immediately, that's not bad luck. That's a broken system. The offense did its job. The defense undid it in seconds. And it's been the same story every week. This defense has allowed explosive plays like it's allergic to consistency. No adjustment, no evolution, no pride. You can't keep rolling out the same veterans making the same mistakes and expect a different result. That's not loyalty, that's stubbornness. At some point, you've got to look at Marshawn Lattimore and admit it's not working. Jonathan Jones is back from injury. Why not shake things up? Why not give someone else a shot? If Lattimore's giving up deep balls every week, what's the downside of trying something different? And that's not even the biggest issue. The bigger elephant in the room is defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. Look, everyone knows he's a smart football guy. He's been around, he's respected. But there's a limit to what doing your best with what you have can excuse. At some point, results matter. Effort doesn't fix broken schemes. Preparation doesn't excuse predictability. And right now, Witt's defense looks lost, undisciplined, and outdated. It's not like the younger guys aren't ready to play. They're just not getting the chance. The linebacker group is a perfect example. Bobby Wagner is an all-time great, first ballot Hall of Famer type of player. But let's be honest, he's not that guy anymore, especially in passing situations. Every week, he gets caught out of position on crossing routes, can't keep up with tight ends, and misses tackles in space. Yet, the staff keeps throwing him out there for every snap while young, hungry linebackers sit on the bench watching the same mistakes repeat. It's the definition of insanity. And the offense, as banged up as it is, doesn't deserve this. Jaden Daniels has been one of the few bright spots this year. He's showing poise beyond his years, even behind a shaky line, and without Terry McLaurin, who's still out indefinitely. Daniels' hamstring injury on Sunday just added salt to the wound. You could feel the air go out of the stadium when he limped off. The Commanders' season was already wobbling, and that moment felt like the final blow. Without McLaurin, without a consistent run game, and now possibly without their rookie quarterback for a stretch, this offense can only carry so much of the burden. What makes it worse is the vibe. The feeling that this season is slipping away, one painful drive at a time. You can see it in the players' faces. You can feel it in the fan base. Every week, the same talking points. We've got to execute better. We've got to communicate more. We've got to fix the small things. But the small things are now big things, and they're destroying this team from the inside out. The Commanders don't need more sound bites. They need change. Real change. That means tough conversations in the locker room, bold lineup moves, maybe even staff changes. Because doing nothing is no longer an option. Let's not sugarcoat it. The next stretch of games is brutal. The Kansas City Chiefs are next, and if this defense plays like it did against Dallas, Patrick Mahomes might not even need a full quarter to drop 21 points. Then you've got division games, playoff-caliber opponents, and a trade deadline looming that could shape the franchise's future. The front office has to decide whether to cling to false hope or to start thinking about what's next. Because this version of the Commanders isn't going anywhere. They're stuck in neutral, running the same schemes, making the same excuses, and expecting something to change. The Commanders have talent. That's what makes this so frustrating. There are playmakers on both sides of the ball. There are young players who could contribute if they were given the opportunity. But leadership is about adaptation. When the same mistakes happen every week, it's not on the players anymore. It's on the people, calling the shots. If head coach Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. can't fix this, or at least show some willingness to try something new, then maybe they shouldn't be the ones trying to fix it at all. This fan base has been patient for too long. They've endured rebuild after rebuild, false dawn after false dawn. They've heard the promises, they've believed the speeches, and they've watched this team find new ways to break their hearts every season. But that drive before halftime, that 35-second collapse, might finally be the one that ends the charade. You can't hide from a moment like that. It exposes everything. It shows who's ready to fight and who's just collecting a paycheck. It separates the professionals from the pretenders. So here we are, at the crossroads again. The Commanders can keep pretending that things will magically improve, or they can own up to the reality that this team needs a shakeup from top to bottom. Because if they don't, if they walk into Arrowhead next week with the same defensive approach, the same personnel, the same lack of urgency, they might not just lose. They might get embarrassed all over again. And by then, it'll be too late to save the season or anyone's job. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. Hold on to your seats, NFL fans, because what's just come out of Washington is sending shockwaves through the league and making every single sports talk show sit up straight. Terry McLaurin, yes, the star wide receiver for the Washington Commanders, has just spoken out in a way no one else in the organization, or frankly, the league, has had the guts to do until now. And if you think this is just another player venting after a loss, think again. McLaurin's words, delivered in an off-the-cuff interview that quickly went viral, are being described by insiders as explosive and career-defining. According to sources close to the team, McLaurin didn't just hint at issues behind the scenes. He named names, he laid blame, and he made a statement that could alter the course of the franchise if the powers that be actually respond. The message was clear. The Commanders' head coach needs to go. And not someday, not next season, not after a long evaluation period. McLaurin's assertion was immediate, unequivocal, and jaw-dropping in its boldness. Now, for context, Washington has been in a state of chronic turmoil for years, bouncing between different offensive philosophies, high-profile draft busts, and controversial management decisions. Fans have endured heartbreak after heartbreak, watching promising seasons collapse under the weight of bad play calling, inconsistent quarterback play, and what many have called an invisible locker room culture. But for someone of McLaurin's stature, a player respected not just for his athleticism, but for his professionalism and leadership, to publicly call out the head coach is a seismic event. He didn't mince words. According to multiple insiders, McLaurin was blunt. If we're going to turn this team around, changes have to start at the top. We're talented, but we're mismanaged. It's that simple. The NFL world is buzzing because, frankly, very few players would risk their careers by openly criticizing a head coach. This is a player putting it all on the line, and the league is taking notice. What makes this even more intense is the timing. The Commanders have had a roller coaster season, and tension has been simmering in the locker room for months. Internal reports suggest that players have been frustrated with what they describe as confusing schemes, inconsistent messaging, and a lack of accountability from the coaching staff. McLaurin's comments are not an isolated eruption. They are the tip of an iceberg that insiders claim has been visible to anyone paying attention, from reporters to rival coaches to front office staff. This isn't just a criticism of a single game or a single play. It's an indictment of the entire direction of the team. Rumor has it that several veteran players in the locker room have privately shared similar frustrations but have been hesitant to speak publicly, fearing retaliation or being labeled disloyal. McLaurin, however, seems to have thrown caution to the wind, and the ripple effect is massive. According to sources, the conversation started casually, but McLaurin's tone shifted quickly from measured commentary to full-on revelation. He reportedly told reporters, "We have talent on this team that could compete with anyone, but the decisions on the sideline are holding us back. It's demoralizing, and I've reached a point where I can't stay quiet anymore." That quote alone has already lit up social media, with thousands of fans dissecting every word, every inflection, and every possible implication. Analysts are speculating that this could trigger a mid-season coaching shakeup, or at the very least, a public acknowledgement from the franchise that change is necessary. And here's the kicker. Insiders suggest that McLaurin didn't just call for a new coach. He called for a complete culture overhaul. This is significant because it signals a shift in player power dynamics, something the NFL has historically resisted but has slowly begun to accommodate in recent years. McLaurin's stance is being framed as a rallying cry for players everywhere who feel stifled under traditional management approaches. But the fallout could be dramatic. Imagine the Commanders' front office navigating the optics of potentially firing a head coach mid-season after a public statement from a star player. Sources claim that team executives are already weighing their options, knowing that inaction could alienate their core talent, while hasty decisions could be criticized as reactive. Meanwhile, the media storm is relentless. Sports networks are replaying McLaurin's comments on loop, dissecting every gesture, every pause, every word, as if a single mispronunciation could alter the course of NFL history. Commentators are debating whether McLaurin's approach is savvy leadership or a risky overstep, but the consensus seems to be that the sheer boldness of speaking out, especially in a league so fiercely loyal to coaching authority, is extraordinary. And fans? They are divided, with some praising McLaurin as a hero who finally voiced what everyone suspected, while others question whether such candor could fracture locker room harmony further. Sources close to the team suggest that the coach in question is feeling the heat, aware that McLaurin's influence extends beyond his on-field contributions. Team insiders hint that private meetings have already taken place behind closed doors, where executives reportedly attempted to gauge whether McLaurin was acting alone or if this was the beginning of a larger player-led movement. Rumors swirl that some players might quietly support McLaurin, agreeing with his critique, but staying silent for fear of media backlash. If even a fraction of that speculation is true, it could mark a historic turning point for player-coach relationships across the league. Historically, the NFL has been resistant to public player criticism, but McLaurin may have just opened a door that no one else had the courage to approach. And there's more. According to whispers from inside the building, McLaurin's comments have triggered conversations at the league office itself. Executives and league officials are reportedly monitoring the situation closely, aware that a publicized player revolt, even subtle or nuanced, can have ripple effects across multiple franchises. The NFL has spent decades cultivating a delicate balance between respecting coaching authority and empowering players, and now that balance is being tested in real time. McLaurin's words are being interpreted as not just a critique of a single team, but as a challenge to the broader league culture. Will other star players follow suit? Will franchises reconsider their approach to leadership and accountability? The possibilities are dizzying, and insiders emphasize that this could be the first domino in a much larger shift. Meanwhile, the fan response has been intense and instantaneous. Social media feeds are flooded with memes, reaction videos, and passionate debates about McLaurin's bravery. Some fans are calling for immediate changes, citing McLaurin as the voice of reason the franchise has needed for years. Others warn that such public criticism could disrupt team chemistry. But the narrative is clear. McLaurin has forced a conversation that can no longer be ignored. And the tension isn't just on Twitter. Journalists covering the team report a heightened atmosphere at practice facilities, with players and coaches alike navigating a new, unpredictable dynamic. Insiders describe a mix of admiration, resentment, and strategic calculation as players and staff attempt to gauge how far McLaurin will push his critique and what consequences, if any, will follow. If there's one thing everyone agrees on, it's that Terry McLaurin has fundamentally changed the conversation around the Washington Commanders. Whether this leads to a coaching change, a cultural overhaul, or simply a media circus, the impact is undeniable. The star wide receiver has risked everything to speak what others only whisper, and the NFL, historically conservative and slow-moving, is watching closely. Fans, analysts, and rival teams are all taking note, and speculation is running rampant about what comes next. Will the coach survive the storm? Will the franchise embrace McLaurin's call for change, or will they attempt to weather the backlash? And perhaps most importantly, what precedent does this set for players across the league, who may now feel emboldened to speak out when leadership fails to meet expectations? The answers are unknown, but one thing is certain. The rumor mill is on fire, the league is buzzing, and Terry McLaurin has just rewritten the narrative of accountability in professional football. In the coming weeks, every development, from practice reports to front office statements, will be dissected with almost forensic precision. Insiders are hinting at high-level meetings, possible player endorsements of McLaurin's position, and behind-the-scenes strategizing that could culminate in one of the most talked-about mid-season shakeups in recent NFL history. Analysts speculate that if the coach is replaced, the ripple effect will extend beyond Washington, influencing hiring trends, coaching contracts, and even player empowerment policies league-wide. And while it remains to be seen how the Commanders will navigate this unprecedented scenario, one fact is indisputable. Terry McLaurin has ignited a fire that won't be easily extinguished, and the NFL world is watching every move, every word, every nuance. This is more than a rumor. This is a seismic, potentially franchise-altering declaration that is already reshaping the way we talk about leadership, accountability, and player voice in professional football. Whether the coach stays or goes, McLaurin's voice has already left an indelible mark on the league, and the conversation he started is far from over. The Commanders may never be the same again, and every fan, analyst, and rival team knows that the storm McLaurin unleashed has only just begun. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.